slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they war. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one lives countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one lives countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Game On here on UCY.TV, and it is January the 31st, last day of January 2016, and we're headed for spring. Hopefully we don't get too much rough weather between now and the end of March or the middle of March, hopefully, although I see there's supposed to be some storms coming in next week. But we'll see what happens. The weather is what the weather is. Anyways, my guest today was supposed to be Enos Martin, a young farmer who was assaulted by police in Grey Bruce, the OPP, Grey Bruce OPP, and we've talked quite a bit in the last few weeks, and I can't catch up with him. He was scheduled to be on here at noon today, and I'm not sure. He's usually pretty on the button here, so I'm not sure exactly what happened. I'm not sure his lawyer told him not to do the show right now until they get the police into the courtroom, or he does have 4 kids, a wife, 2 farms, and he has a company that does, I guess, what would you call it, duck pickup? But he deals with 30,000 ducks a month or something. So he's a very, very busy young man. So, well, I'll hopefully, I left a couple messages, and hopefully he's okay and the family's okay and everything on the farms is okay. And maybe he'll call in later, or I can catch up with him and we'll do it another day. Anyways, that's unfortunate because I was really looking forward to this today. But it is what it is, and so we'll just drive on from there. Now, I was reading a story last night, and before people started calling in, and I never got to get through that story, so I'm going to just pick up where I left off yesterday. And I want to really, I'm still thinking about Helen when she called in on the show on Revolution Radio last night. And, people are getting it, right? They're looking back, like Helen's probably kicking close, late 60s. And, she's looking back, and she's looking back now. And I think that's, I'm 61 now. I always knew there was something wrong since I was a little kid. Couldn't get my finger on it. And because every time I tried to ask the question, it was, oh, yeah, you don't do that. Just hang, this is the way it is kind of attitude. And so, when you reflect back, And you see how we've been enslaved over all these years and how we've been deceived to this, just, I mean, the pinnacle of deception, my goodness. So now you have people like Helen, and I really got to take my hat off because I know there's lots of them out there. They're talking now, right? Which they didn't talk before. And again, that goes back to the difference between when I ran for mayor in 2010 and when I helped someone knock doors in 2014. And the reason I pushed the people so hard to run in 2014, I knew they'd never be elected, even though Sheila, who I had run and helped her with it, when the voting results came in the night of the election, she had won the election. The next morning, the numbers were flipped, and she lost. And when I ran in 2010, we had the same problem with vote counts. It was bloody so blatantly screwed up. It was just totally blatant. And so the difference I saw between 2010 and 2014, the best way to learn something, go knock on some doors and talk to some people. That's the best way. But Canadians, they just can't bring themselves to do it. And so I thought the 2014 election was a perfect opportunity to make up some brochures and hit the doors, which we did. And I found a huge difference between 2010 and 2014 in the attitudes of the people, the amount of knowledge people seemed to possess that they didn't have in 2010, subjects that were, you couldn't discuss them in 2010. People didn't have a clue what I was talking about. And I was being very careful with subjects I was touching on. Still didn't have a clue what I was talking about. In 2014, it seemed the conversations were a whole lot more open, and I talked to some young families in that who were having problems, keeping a roof over their head, keeping the kids fed. And, one of the things that I came across was that, some of the people were saying, so, like, we're supposed to do something. It's okay for us to stand up. Absolutely. So I found a huge, huge difference in the attitude of the people. Now, a lot of these people, like Helen, I don't want to put words in her mouth or anything, but from what I gathered last night, there's an awful lot of people who have been talking, quietly in the background for a long time. They knew something's wrong. And I think Helen is a typical case of a Canadian who now is just openly verbalizing what she knows to be wrong. You can't not see it. And it's so putrid now, you can't not smell it. And it is a stench of tyranny. And, we live in it just kills me, man. We live in the second largest landmass on the planet, more resources per man and woman than anywhere on the planet. And the people here are suffering. And that's just not bloody well acceptable. Now, I spent a lot of time dicking around with trying to get the right words. I mean, we've searched dictionaries and I can't even begin to imagine how many books and how many ancient documents I've read and trying to follow this up through. I got 9 years in now. And the one thing that I talked about this yesterday, I think a little bit, was public. And I think that is the basis of the ruse, really, at least the modern ruse, is that public, we're the public, serve the public, well, public, and I'm going to read this again if people, and this is out of Anderson's dictionary, and I wish I could get a hold of Art today because this guy has an absolute trap for a mind, and I can dig out that. I want to just dig it out if I can find it here. Where did he get to? He's had a major computer crash. We were trying to get it going. He doesn't live that close to me right now, and we couldn't use his computer. It's completely down now. But this is really, really important stuff. And this is out of Anderson. It's 1856 dictionary. And it tells us what public is, because I've read lots of law papers and stuff, and lots of the one I read that I found interesting was from, I think it was the paper out of the University of Waterloo, I think it was, and it came up about public interest, because we hear that constantly. People are complaining, you're going to do what now? Well, it's in the public interest, says the government. And therefore, you'll have to put your own interests aside, really, because it's in the public interest or the common good. We hear that all the time. Every time they jam something really smelly down our throats and tighten the noose around us again, it's always about the public interest and the public park. And public, and it's such a root. I got to dig this out. Where did that get to? And it's under property in the Anderson's dictionary, but what the one I'm looking for here is, and I will dig it out. Here we go. I think we're going to get it. I hope I get it. I'm going to get it. That's what I'm going to do. I just got to find it. This is quite a long piece here that he sent me. But it has to do with public. And according to this dictionary, public does not mean what we thought it meant. At least not what I thought it meant. I mean, I've been questioning, I've been saying for some period of time that that there's no such thing as public. All right? I've been saying that because when I'm following things through, it doesn't make any sense that there's anything public. And so we look at land territory it's under, I think, and I just had this thing. Private property are things which belong to an individual or private person. Public property, on the other hand, is anything that belongs to the government, okay? Local, state, or national. See land, public territory. The power of the state over private property is well defined. It may take the property for a public use upon compensation being made or secured. It may take by taxation and may control the use as to secure equal enjoyment, yada, yada, yada. But the point is that public property is anything that belongs to the government. Well, the government is a corporation. Okay, it is definitely a corporation. So public property is anything that belongs to the government. Now, your legal name was created and is owned by the corporation. Okay? All of the land is owned by the corporation. Now, government is supposed to serve the people. Serve the people. That means the people own all the land and the resources. Okay? And they say, well, this is public. Well, that means the government owns it. That means the corporation owns it. That means your legal entity is owned. Well, we know it's owned and created by the government. Okay? So your Everything you do in commerce is corporate, and it's all owned by the government. The government, that's what, you go to court and you say, I'm the man. Well, they can't deal with that because they don't own the man. Right? The government doesn't own the man, doesn't serve the man. They created the legal entity. The legal system cannot deal with the man. They didn't create it. So they created a different system of law called legal, which is corporate law. And they made up a name for you, which they created, they own, and that you must abide by the rules and regulations of the corporation. I've heard all kinds of people, and I've said it before, Section 3252 or whatever it is of the Charter, Canadian Charter, it says that it only applies to government. Okay, well, it applies, they said it doesn't apply to me because I'm not government. Well, according to this, you are government because you live in a legal system and they created your legal entity and they own it. And therefore, it belongs to the corporation. So, in that sense, yes, you are government. The man is not government. The woman is not government. And is not owned by anybody. Nobody can own you. But they do own your legal entity because they created it. So, it seems kind of ludicrous here. If you want to buy a piece of, you want to buy a house, say. Well, according to this, the government owns the land. But the government is supposed to serve the people who own the land. So they flip it around, and so you want to build a house somewhere. Now you have to buy the land from yourself because the people own the land, not the corporation. The corporation is there to serve the people, not to sell them things. So now you want to buy a house. So you say, okay, I'll buy a house. Who am I buying the house from? Well, Joe and Susan. All right. But okay, that's the property. That's the bundle that's the legal bundle of rights that you get to so-called enjoy. But who am I actually buying the land from? Right? Because you never get to buy the land. Because the government owns the land, the corporation owns the land, not you. And you're supposed to own the land. These are our resources. These do not belong. These resources in this land, and I don't care what country you're in, the resources of the land that you are living on in this so-called boundary thing called a country belong to the people. The government is basically supposed to be just the administrative body to look after the resources on behalf of the people, not take possession of them. So now you want to go and buy a house, but you already own the land. By birth, you already own the land. By dominion, you already own the land. So now you take you can't buy anything anyways. Okay, you have to work as an agent of this legal entity which the corporation owns in order to do anything, really, to work, to buy anything. So it's just a big corporate scam. So now you want to go buy a house. Well, you already own the assets of your so-called country. These are your assets, right? Everybody owns an equal share in these assets. So you have to go now with the created legal name and go to a bank, which is legal created corporation, and sign on to this thing. So for the next 25, 30 years, your labor is being extracted from you to pay for something you already own. We got to sharpen way up, people. You know, like I talked about the natives before this commercial nonsense got here. And I don't care. It doesn't have to be North America. It could be anywhere on the planet where there was an indigenous population. Every one of those populations believed in some sort of a creator, making them quite a bit smarter than us. And you didn't buy and sell land. You didn't pay taxes on the land, right? You weren't slaves to a corporation. They didn't pay taxes. You know, you never heard of the the Iroquois or the Mohawk or the Dene or whatever. You never heard of a native way back when before this corporate crap spread across these lands. You never heard them, oh my God, I'm late on my taxes. They didn't exist because they lived as men and women on the land that they were given dominion over. And we've allowed that dominion to be taken away from us. And we have been thoroughly enslaved and stupefied to the point most people have a very difficult time wrapping their brain around the deception that has just a big deceptive cloud that's been laid down over top of us. But this idea, you know, the public interest, when I read that article, when the article was a paper from I'm sure it was the University of Waterloo, and they get down to the public interest, and they said right in that paper, the public interest is kind of a weird animal because we really don't have a definition for it. Well, yeah, we do. It's sitting right here in Anderson's dictionary. Okay? It's right there in the dictionary. But that kind of lets the cat out of the bag. So they say there's no real definition of public interest. Well, if there's no definition of it that you can come up with in your legal nonsense that's allowed to get out to the men and women, then how can you say this is in the public interest? If you say there's no real definition for public interest, how is it these so-called governments are forever saying, well, it's in the public interest? Well, the public is everything owned by the government. The government is a corporation. Therefore, every time they say the public interest, they're saying in the interest of the corporation. It's in the interest of the corporation. It's freaking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So who do the police serve? You? No. They serve the corporation. Why? Because they're owned by the corporation. Does the government serve you like you were led to believe, or do you serve the corporation? Well, you serve the corporation because they own you. They don't own you, but they manage to sucker people into thinking that name that you use is you. All they did was make you an agent of the name, and they made you liable for all the debts and liabilities that come from that name. So people are out there working 25, 30 years, slaving away, watching a greater amount of their wages, which again is property. Your labor is your property. It belongs to you. That's the definition of it. Your labor is your property belonging to you. And through this setup of the legal name, you being the agent and responsible for, and the corporation puts down the rules and the regulations, which do not apply to man, but only to the corporation or the so-called government, but they've tied you to it and made you liable. Okay, so they tax the legal entity, the corporate entity, and then you pay those taxes. Okay, because they made you an agent of it. But the kicker is no one can be held in servitude without their express consent. Okay? And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You are a slave to the corporation. The corporation owns your life. And if you don't do as the corporation says, as an agent of what they own, which is not you, the man or woman, but the creation, the legal entity, then they will come down on you like a ton of bricks. Okay? You, the man, work. You, the man, that's your labor. That belongs to you. Everything that comes from your labor belongs to you. But through this legal entity thing, they've made you liable for their rules and regulations, which are your tax rules. Okay, so now you agree to take a portion of your labor and pay this tax, which is not attached to you at all. Okay? So we've been deceived. I mean, it's just that simple. We've just been deceived. You know, the public interest is everything in the interest of the corporation. It is. People think it's in our best interest. No, it's not. It is not in your best interest. It is in the corporation's best interest. And I really got kind of looking at this over this raw milk thing. You know, we brought in all these rules and regulations. We abolished, or we made it illegal for anyone to distribute, sell, move, whatever, unpasteurized milk in the public interest. Well, what did they do when they set up this milk marketing board? Okay. By making these rules about raw milk in the public interest, when in fact it was in the corporate interest of the Milk Marketing Board, which was created by the government, the so-called government, which is a corporation, to protect the corporation that they created. They didn't want any competition. So instead of coming out and saying, well, we're going to start this milk marketing board and we're going to make a lot of money and we're going to sell quota on cows for great deals of money, and that's why we're making it illegal for people to deal in raw milk because we don't want any competition. No, they didn't say that. That would have been honest. They didn't say that. What they did say was that it's in the public interest. Someone could get sick from drinking raw milk. Well, yeah, right? You can get sick from damn near anything, right? Like the poison food, the poison water, and everything else they've dumped upon us in the public interest. Has always been the corporate interest. So anytime you see, hear, or read something that says public interest, put corporate interest. Now you got it right, okay? It's always in the interest of the corporation. Now, the corporation does not serve the people. The corporation serves the corporation. So how is it that you take this corporate entity called a government, who is only interested in the interest of the corporation, and how do they spin that around? Vote for us, I wish to serve you. Can't go there. It's a complete and total fraud. And fraud is against the law. Deception's against the law because deception is fraud. Okay? And all of these coercive tactics they took to get us where we are all against the law. And we need to get on top of this. It's really quite sickening, actually. It's very sickening, you know, to think that, all I got to do is go and look at indigenous peoples. And they understand law. But it's the law of the Creator. Do no harm. Okay? If you do harm, you need to restore the harm. Restore it back to before the harm. And that's why you go to these indigenous countries. Well, I don't, because they even took the driver's license. I can't go anywhere now. Because they own it. And therefore they can make the rules and regulations upon it. But we will get that sorted out. But the indigenous people, as far as the law goes, they get the law. you know, you do harm to one of your fellows, then you are brought before a tribunal of your peers, and you're sat down. The two parties sit down, just like in a real trial, a jury trial. Okay? And your peers work this out. Okay? The two parties work it out. You know, why'd you steal my fish? Well, I was hungry. Okay, I can give you that. But I wish you would ask for it. If you would ask for the fish, I would have given you the fish. But you stole my fish. Okay, and that did me harm. Okay? Now, if you'd asked me for the fish, I could have invited you for dinner if I couldn't afford to give the whole fish and would have fed you. Okay? And that would be charity on my part, showing that I care about you. And then we wouldn't be sitting here. But you stole the fish. Now, you're going to have to go get me another fish or replace the fish, at which point, I don't hold any animosity towards you. You just screwed up. I'm going to invite you for dinner, and we'll have a fish dinner. That's law. That's law. All the rest of this crap is corporate deception. All of it. You know, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. You got to go back to that divine right of kings. You know, that we need a government. We need someone to administrate. We need an administrative body. I really don't have a problem with that. But like in the divine right of kings, as long as you follow the law, okay, and do not deceive the people, and do not do harm to the people, then you can stay in that administrative position. But once you cross the line, and that's laid out very clearly, do not add to or take away from my word, which is the law. Once you do that, you're no longer in law. Okay? You've crossed into tyranny. And you have no more right of the divine right of kings. Okay? So what they did was they split it. They split it. And I mean, I wish I would have lived in the 1200s when the Villians, as they call them, the common people, those under the administration of the king, who had the divine right to act as a proxy for the creator, as long as he stayed within the realm of the law of the creator, and things were getting weirded out, and they put their finger on it. I mean, how is it the people in the 1200s could figure this out, and today we're wandering around like a bunch of freaking zombies, getting beat up worse than they did in the 1200s, getting robbed far worse than they got robbed in the 1200s. But those people way back then, they said, yeah, they looked around and said, what exactly is the problem? And they nailed it. The lawyers and the judges. And their attitude, well, if that's the problem, just like a cancer on the land, you cut it out. And they went on a bit of a tear there, wiping out lawyers everywhere they found them and judges. Get them out of here, okay? Because they've crossed the line now, okay? This is no more, we're not in law anymore, okay? We're outside the law, and these guys are tyrannous dogs, and they're raping and pillaging us, and we ain't going to put up with it. That's where Magna Carta showed up from after that. But did it ever hold any weight? Who knows? Because the lawyers, when they got back there, what was left of them, said that, you don't have to abide by what you signed there, King, because you signed it under duress. Therefore, it's void. But the Magna Carta has been held up to us, the commoners, as this great document of freedom or something, this great agreement. Now, I did see an article, and it was on RCMP's site, for crying out loud, somewhere, a year or so ago. Well, when was the last? It was last year, wasn't it? The 800th birthday of the Magna Carta or something. And I actually found a document from the RCMP stating that this thing is nothing. It is nothing. It means nothing. This is the RCMP, who are the Queen's Regiment, who's supposed to be the proxy of the Creator, not crossing the line. And all of these years, for 800 years, this Magna Carta has been held up to the commoners like some great document. And here we have an RCMP file that it doesn't mean nothing. It means nothing. And that's on the 18th, or the 800th birthday of the Magna Carta. Canada was started as a corporation. It remains a corporation. Okay, and it goes to the flags. They planted a flag here. They claimed this land that they said was abandoned or wasteland. Okay, it's a wasteland. There are no improvements on it. Therefore, it's up for claim. So they claimed it. And they chartered it as a corporation. And it's been a corporation ever since then. And what really ticks me off is my forefathers and your forefathers built everything that's on these lands. And they sacrificed large. Only be slaves of the corporation. We live in Canada. It's a free country. I guess we'll believe anything, won't we? But then we went to public schools, which are what? Public schools are what? The government owns everything public. Why? Because they created the schools. The corporation created the schools. Why? To teach us what they wanted us to know. To teach us to be useful idiots for them. To teach us how to bow down to them. To teach us not to ask questions of them. To teach us to fear them. Welcome to your public school. Public health, same thing. It's corporate health. You know, it's all corporate. All of it. And we have to change that. Because, as I've said over and over and over again, these are our lands. We hold possession of these lands. These are our boots on this land. Everything that was ever done on these lands, every improvement on these lands were done by men and women, not corporate entities. So they got you and I, the slave, and your parents and your grandparents to operate as slaves for the benefit of the corporation. This is absolutely no different than the slavery of the South and the cotton fields and all the rest of it. There is absolutely no difference. It's actually worse. It's actually worse. At least they knew they were enslaved. At least they knew they were enslaved. And the slave owner had to supply them with their housing and make sure they were fed and make sure they were clothed. They would work. No point having a bunch of emancipated sick slaves kicking around. Only difference now is you pay for your slavery. You labor. Okay, and these are all our resources. Okay, these are all our resources. If you need a house, go get some friends and cut some lumber, put up a mill, cut some lumber, build yourself a house. The land belongs to you. Possession is 90% of the law, the real law. If you possess it, you possess it. If you possess it, you have the right to it. This idea that we are taking out 25, 30-year mortgages to pay for something we already own is ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. So the corporation tells you that it operates in your best interest. That's a bit of a stretch. That the police are there to protect the public. Well, the public is the corporation. Why do you think when there's a demonstration where somebody's fracking or somebody's cracking up a windmill behind somebody's house, or they're going to run a pipeline through your water or whatever, that those that show up at the protest to serve and protect are arresting the people. Well, they're there to serve and protect the public, which is the corporation. Not you. Not you. The corporation. The corporation, not the government, not the administrative body to look after the resources of the lands or to protect you in law. It's a completely legal system, and a legal system is nothing but a corporate system, which means that your government is nothing more than a corporation. It's that simple. And we're going to have to fix it. We've all been stolen from. We've had our freedom stolen. We've had our identity stolen. We've had our labor stolen. Make no mistake, property is labor, or labor is property. That's personal property. That is your property. So how is it that you work your labor and you take whatever for your labor, and that I don't want to use the word contract, but that agreement between you and the other party is between you and the other party. This party needs something done. You offer your labor to do it. There's an exchange for your labor that obviously you both agree upon, and you're done. But then all these hands come in from everywhere and reach into your pockets and remove the fruits of your labor from you. That's theft. That's absolute theft. It's no different than somebody coming up to you. You come to my house and I'd like my hedge trimmed, and we come to an agreement, okay, for your labor. We agree, whatever it is we agree upon, and we're good with it. And so I pay you whatever it is, be it real money or bananas or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. But we agreed what the labor was worth, and when you're done your labor, you get what we agreed upon for your labor. And then we bid each other adieu. And you head out home. You're heading home, and you no sooner get off the land that you were working on, and somebody sticks a gun in your face and says, "I'm taking what you received for your labor from you now." That's robbery, and that's exactly what this so-called government does to you every day of your life. They steal from you. Okay, and if you don't do as they say, chances are somebody's going to show up packing a gun and a piece of paper telling you have to go somewhere where they will rob you. "I'm just here to serve and protect," say the police. Well, yeah, you're telling the truth. You are here to serve and protect. You're here to serve and protect the corporation which created you. Okay, so you're a public servant. Who do you serve? People say, you're a public servant. You serve us. Well, no, they don't. They serve the corporation, who sits there to put rules and regulations upon your life and rob you. So in that sense, I guess they serve you, backhand up the back of the head and a gun in your gut every time you turn around, if that's what you want to call serve. You know, it's a public service. No, it's a corporate service of which you pay for. It's a public library. No, it's not. It's a corporate library that fills it full of information. The corporation decides that's what they want you to read. And the things you should be reading, you don't really have any access to. So they control the knowledge system. They control your health system. They control your food system. They control your water system. They control where you live. They control everything. And this is supposed to be a government that is there to serve the people? No. It's backwards. You're there to serve the corporation. And we got to get away from that. It just kills me, But I'm going to have to get Art on here. I mean, I don't profess in any way, shape, or form to be as tuned to some of this language as some people I know. I mean, I know what's going on, but and it actually hurts my head as well. When I get someone like Art on here, and I love the man to death, he's brilliant. He's been through the Boer War with these guys, and I look more to history and stuff where a lot of these guys. I mean, to sit down and read a dictionary, it gets a little painful after a while. But it's so the people that have that capacity who understand absolutely the legal jargon, which is like reading gibberish sometimes to me. But every now and again, I mean, I get the gist of all of this stuff, right? So it's like I don't get all hung up on religion. I don't want nothing to do with religion. But then I look at it from a basic viewpoint of how did we get here? I got a choice. I evolved from an ape, which begs the question why either and or some creator did this. And I know I didn't evolve from an ape, because if it did, there wouldn't be apes. And so that's controlled by corporate science to deceive you, period. The whole legal system is about deception. The education system is about deception. And so I don't go there. But this thing here about public property, anything that belongs to the government. As far as the government is concerned, you belong to them and you are used as an asset for their benefit. Period. And that is slavery, because that's servitude. And the law states that no one can be held in servitude without their express consent. And they'll say, well, when you applied for your social insurance number, that was a consent. Well, it may be consent, and it could even be looking as express consent because you signed on for it, but there's absolutely no disclosure behind this. The whole thing was set up as a deception, and they deceived you into giving your consent by not disclosing what the hell was going on. That once you sign this, then we can rob you and you can't complain about it. Well, I don't know too many people who consent to that, so we can come to the conclusion that nobody consented to this stuff because they didn't know about it. But then you went to a public school system, which is a corporate system to withhold knowledge from you. Because if they gave you the knowledge, you would have never consented to this stuff. So they withhold the knowledge. That's fraud. That's deception again, right? And that's one of the problems I'm having with the municipality here, because I'm refusing to pay the portion of the tax for education. Because it's a clinical case, it's a provable case of fraud and deception. And mental abuse. I mean, you put me in these buildings for however many years to mentally abuse me by giving me wrong information and withholding real knowledge from me. And you did it on purpose, so you could steal from me the rest of my life as I work. Now, why would I be paying for this system of education when I know that now, I didn't then, but I do now, that this was designed to harm me and everybody else that went to the school, to harm them, to turn them to easy pickings, to make fools out of us. Compliant, weak fools who are afraid of those who are supposed to be serving us. So we're just going to have to turn all that crap around. That's all there is to it. Plain and simple. Enough of that nonsense for now. But that's the way it is. Now, I want to go back, and I really do. If you really got to read some of this guy, Jean Baudin, right? These guys are the 1500s guys. There's him. There's Martin Luther. And the other one who is held up by the Catholic group of lawyers here in Canada. I forget what his name is right now. It's in here somewhere. But you really need to go through some of these guys because they all understood what the divine right of kings was all about and the purpose of it. And they all basically say the same thing, that once they get outside of that, that they are no longer in law, so to speak. Okay, they have become not a government of and by, of, and for the people or whatever, but they have become a tyrannical government designed to harm the people, the very people that they're supposed to be looking out for. So, you know, we in the 1200s, we had the people rise up against the lawyers and the judges. And in the 1500s, we had them explaining, you know, the divine right of kings and what happens when you cross that line. You're no more divine and you're no more a king, okay? You cannot be a proxy for the Creator if you go against the Creator. You know, and if you look up, you know, the first time I ever saw this thing about I forgot what I was going to say now. Anyways, doesn't matter. But yeah, you look up those guys, and it's all really written down for us. It was never taught to us in school. I don't recall any of this stuff ever being taught to me in school. I did wonder why it took so long to get through a stinking textbook. You know, I never understood that when I was in school. You know, if you have any capacity at all, it shouldn't take you very long to read a textbook. But we would be dicking around with this textbook for an entire year. And that's just because they didn't want to give us any real knowledge and they had to do something with us. So we were taught painfully slow. And we were taught, I think at that point, to not want to read and not want to research and not want to look at books because it was so drawn out and painful that people just said, you know, I don't want this crap. Anyways, I'm going to run back here for a little bit. If somebody wants to talk about something else or something I was just talking about or whatever, pick up the telephone and call in. And what do we got here for a phone number? It is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. And we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Now, I was talking about this. This is what I love, right? I mean, this is the business section of Toronto Star. I started reading this last night, and they're jumping all over this outfit called Postmedia, which is controlled by outside entities. It's funded through, let's see, it was Golden Tree. I don't know who they are. It's an asset management company, which controls 35%. and has a huge grip on the media, at least the print media, and a lot of radio and TV media in Canada. And it says that in here it says somewhere that it reaches somewhere around 29 million Canadians. I don't know where they come up with that data, because there's only 34, 35 million people in the entire freaking country, and that would mean little babies are listening or reading Postmedia. So this idea that there's that many Canadians being reached by Postmedia, the numbers seem a little bit high. But this is one paper, the Toronto Star, beating up on another group, right? And I would be surprised. I don't know why Postmedia wouldn't sue these clowns, but maybe not. Toronto newspaper, the Toronto Star, a lot like the CBC, seems pretty much untouchable. So again, they beat up on Stephen Harper. They didn't print this when Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister, or the CEO, excuse me, of the corporation known as Canada. They do it afterwards. This is a very liberal paper. This is a very pro-Muslim immigration paper. This is a very pro-gay lesbian paper. This is a very pro-New World Order paper. But they all are, because they're all pushing the same message, but in different forms. But it's all the same thing. These people do not work for your benefit. What you get from the media is not for your benefit, it is for the corporate benefit. Okay? And anyways, I'll just, where will we start here? Postmedia has laid off more than half of its employees, and the staff reduction continues as recently as another round of layoffs this month, which means that countless news stories are no longer reported, and costly investigative and enterprise journalism is now an unaffordable luxury. Rather than invest to improve this country's journalism, this corporation's journalism is what it should say, Godfrey has been channeling William Randolph Hearst, ordering all Postmedia publications to endorse the Harper government's bid for re-election in October. Okay, well, this is an older story. Where the hell? No, this is published on January the 30th, 2016. So why are they backing up here? How did Harper's election get into this thing? Well, I know why. It's in the Toronto paper. Rather than invest to improve this country's journalism, Godfrey has been channeling William Randolph Hearst, ordering all Postmedia publications to endorse the Harper government's bid for re-election in October. So much for the local editorial autonomy long enjoyed by certain of the larger Postmedia papers when they were owned by the Southam family, which prided itself on their papers' independence. Then again, when you're publishing local papers, it's only common and commercial sense that your papers reflect the views of the community and not Toronto head office. Well, I called the Toronto Star some time ago, and they were doing stories about wind energy up in rural Ontario, calling people that were opposing it NIMBYs and whatnot. And I called them, and they were, although they sell the Toronto Star here and everywhere else in Ontario, they were telling me that they do stories for their readers' interest. And if that's not the interest of your particular community, then tough luck. So for it's like Toronto Star calling the kettle black, right? So this is just a hit piece on Postmedia and a shot against the Conservatives. and to try to buoy their readership. Okay, so there's a bunch in the same election. Godfrey also sold the front pages of some major Post Media papers to the Tories for full-page ads, which rendered the paper's entire content suspect. This month, Godfrey announced that newsrooms will be merged in cities where Post Media publishes a broadsheet and a tabloid. In doing so, Godfrey is crossing a bright red line, since editorial is what gives a media operation the unique voice which it attracts readers and thus advertisers. The savage nonstop cost-cutting at Post Media has turned out to be a fool's errand. Post Media's circulation and print and online revenues continue to fall. Yada, 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 yada. So we go through a bunch of cost-cutting and a bunch of debt problems. We get to Moody's Investor Services this month, warned it is poised to further downgrade the ratings on Post Media debt if, end quote, it is highly likely the company will default on its debt obligations. And RBC Dominion Securities took the unusual step of cutting its price target on Post Media stock to 0, for which the rare precedents include the now defunct RadioShack.com, LLC, and General Motors Corp just before its 2009 bankruptcy filing. The Post Media debt, by the way, carries a lofty 8% interest rate, which means the U.S. hedge funds are doing just fine as long as Godfrey can make those payments for an eroding revenue base, yada, yada, yada. So we go through some more cost cutting and some more numbers and how this Post Media group is in such terrible trouble and how it is hurting the media industry in Canada, and just a lot of dirt dumping on this outfit. The way the U.S. hedge funds that have already reaped tens of millions of dollars from Post Media in interest payments can get their hands on a bankrupt Post Media real estate and other assets at fire sale prices. As debt holders, the hedges will be at or near the front of the line of creditors in a bankruptcy proceeding to assess the asset flipping Yanks. I guess that would be the Americans. Post Media is said to be lobbying Ottawa for relaxation of Canadian ownership rules and other cultural assets, since some of the deepest pocketed bidders on a bankrupt Post Media assets are likely to be foreigners. Okay? So I know Chinese papers and that want to come in here. Some of them are already in here. This idea that you're a citizen of Canada, you got to wrap your head around that pretty quick, too. Okay, so Post Media is giving private ownership of an essential public service. This is what I wanted to get to at the end here. Post Media is giving private ownership of an essential public service a bad name. Its charade of pretending to operate its papers in the public interest cannot end soon enough. Now, for that last statement there, I think I will get a hold of the Toronto Star and explain that if they don't retract that, and I'm no fan of Post Media, make no mistake about that, but I am absolutely no fan of newspapers just straight outright lying to you, which they've been doing forever. But this idea that Post Media is giving private ownership of an essential public service a bad name, its charade of pretending to operate its papers in the public interest cannot end soon enough. Well, the whole idea of public interest itself is a charade. Okay? And for it to say of pretending to operate its papers in the public interest. Now, the Toronto Star knows, or ought to know, that the public interest is in the interest of the corporation called the government. Okay? But that's not what they say. They say pretending to operate the papers in the public interest. Well, they are operating the papers in the public interest. They're operating the papers in the corporate interest. So for the Toronto Star to say they're pretending to operate the papers in the public interest is an out-and-out fraud and a lie. Okay? And I would like to see the Toronto Star burned to the ground, because the same as CBC, same as all other media. Anyways, I think the caller who just called in, if you want to call back, and I'm sorry for not taking your call. I just was trying to get to the end of this story on the media. That's it. That's all I was trying to do. Tried to do that yesterday. It didn't work. But the point of that was that one newspaper telling you not to trust these guys, saying that they're trustworthy, and this idea that they're pretending to act in the public interest. That just kills me. Absolutely kills me. The outright lies that are being perpetrated by the media. Okay, so we also have a little problem here of trust. Apparently, people don't trust the police as much as they should, or they ought to, or they did before. And the police took polls taken 9 days apart suggest the Fusillo verdict, the guy that shot that kid on the streetcar, and corruption charges are damaging the police view, the public's view of the Toronto Police Force. The Toronto voters' trust in local police officers dropped sharply between the beginning of jury deliberation in the trial of Constable James Fusillo, and the days following the guilty verdict, according to a New Forum research poll. Well, no kidding. This idiot goes ahead and kills a kid that didn't have to be killed, and then the jury finds him guilty of attempted murder, and you wonder why the public is losing trust in the police. Anyways, let me dig this out here. I'm going to bring Christopher in here. He's been calling, and see what he's up to. I sound tired today. I am tired today. Hopefully Chris will answer the phone so I don't have to talk so much, which would be good with me. But for some reason he ain't hooking up. Here we go. We're back. Sorry about that. We got bumped. All right, let me try him again. Okay, here we go. Christopher? Mr. Duck?
Ron?
Mr. Duck? Have I got you?
Nope.
Here we go. We're back. Sorry about that. We got bumped. Chris? Where'd you go?
Ron?
Yeah, are you there? Yeah. I've got you in here, Chris, so somebody's got something screwed up. Christopher?
I got you, Ron?
I have you.
Ron?
Yeah, I got you. Why can't I?
Mr. Duck.
You're in here. Why can't I hear you?
You got a problem with my computer, apparently.
Apparently.
Chris?
Well, anyways, you try to figure that out. I'm going to carry on here.
Ron? Yeah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I got you in here, Chris, so somebody's got something screwed up.
I got you, Ron?
I have you. Yeah, but you're apparently not hearing me. You're in here. Why can't I hear you?
Got a problem with my computer, apparently.
Apparently. I got to get him out of here. Okay, we're back. Okay, we're back anyways, as far as I know. I want to get back into this thing about the police here. Now, Enos, who was supposed to be on the show today, why am I not connected? The hell is going on here? Oh yeah, we're connected. All right. What I wanted to do was just go through this a little bit. Now, the police are having a bit of a tough time right now. And like anybody cares. I mean, the more light can be shined on these buffoons, the better, right? The more the police, I think it's more of something the police need to understand what they're involved in, okay? They take an oath to the Queen, which is the head of state, which is head of the Crown Corporation, and the Queen is at the apex of the political and legal systems, which is corporate. So these police to even vaguely think that they're serving and protecting you and I, well, they ought not have a gun because they're stupid, and stupid people shouldn't have a gun. It makes stupid people with a gun get real dangerous on you. So found out that young man on the streetcar. To serve and protect is serve the corporation, not you. That's why they don't feel so bad when they beat the snot out of you. Now, there's all kinds of, I would think there's all kinds of stuff going out there that never gets reported. I phoned Bayshore Broadcasting, which is a radio news outlet with an online website, and they have a specific tab for crime and one for police, and they're supposed to put up that what's going on with the police in this neck of the woods. So I checked a few days ago, and I didn't see anything. A couple days ago, and I didn't see anything about the police being charged for assault of Enos. And so I phoned them up. And just like the post-media story we heard where the media is cutting their staff back to basically nothing, this is almost coming out of a central ministry of truth now, the information that people receive. So, you know, the Bayshore Broadcasting, when I called them, you know, they're going, well, we don't have any staff to run around. Well, how do you get this information that comes on where it says police and crime on your site? Well, they send it to us. They're supposed to send us their reports. Okay, but you didn't get a report that they were charged with assault? No. Isn't that funny? Well, he was a little bit ticked off about it. He said he was going to get a hold of the courthouse and get a hold of the police and get a story up. Well, 2 days later, I don't see his story. The Owen Sound Sun-Times, which is the biggest newspaper in this neck of the woods, I mean, close in. Owen Sound's about an hour from here. This is just a small city, 22,000 people maybe. But it's the biggest center we have here outside of about 90 miles. And so Enos told me that he was on the horn with a reporter for quite some period of time the other day, and that they were going to get a story out ASAP. Well, I still don't see a story in the Owen Sound Sun-Times yet either. So how many other stories don't get to the local news of police abusing people? I would say the vast majority of them don't get to the newspapers. So now we have a situation of controlled media, which we all knew it was controlled anyways. Now, if a kid gets busted for stealing 2 chocolate bars at the local store, that will show up in the newspaper. And it's rare when all of these other abuses by these police against the people, they just don't show up in the paper. Because they have to shine a good light on those who are protecting the corporation. They don't want the people to think that these are actually corporate thugs running around, and that they, the people, through their labor, through the theft of their labor, are actually paying for these guys whose specific job is to hold them to keep them in servitude. Now, why would you labor and then say, look, I worked hard all week, and could I give you this much of my labor, and could you go out and get some cruisers and some guns and that, and could you keep us in check so that we don't do nothing wrong? I don't think that would happen. But that's what's going on. Your labor is being stolen from you. To arm these guys, to buy them cars, to buy them guns, to buy them uniforms, to give them the authority to abuse you and steal from you some more and tell you what you can and can't do, tell you where you can and can't go. We are really a bunch of dumb fools. But that's just the way it is. Just the way it is. So, according to this, the results come on the heels. They did a poll, and they did a poll on January the 20th, and 78% of the respondents said they trusted Toronto police officers. Now, I don't know who they're talking to, but then people will say that because they don't want to be seen in a bad light. The results come on the heels of what Toronto Police Chief Mark Saunders called an anomaly week for the service, along with the jury finding Frisello guilty of attempted murder in the... I mean, how the hell can you even do this? Along with the jury finding Frisello guilty of attempted murder in the 2013 shooting death of Sammy Yeton, how can you be found guilty of attempted murder in the shooting death? Only in Canada. It's like Red Rose tea. Only in Canada. Right? Only in Canada could you be found guilty of attempted murder for someone you killed. Only time. Now, there's all kinds of histories saying, well, I shot him and I didn't mean to kill him, but he died afterwards. So while he's still alive, you're charged with attempted murder, attempted manslaughter. And then if the one you shot or hit with a baseball bat or whatever it was you did dies as a result of what you did, then the charge gets upgraded to manslaughter or murder, second degree, first degree murder, whatever. It gets upgraded. But only here, when we're dealing with the police in Canada, can a policeman who shot someone and killed him on site almost instantly, if not instantly, is charged with attempted murder. And I wonder why people are looking at the police with a different set of eyeballs. Okay, besides that one, 4 Toronto police officers were charged with perjury and obstruction of justice after allegedly planting heroin in a suspect's car. Disciplinary charges were also laid against another officer in relation to a high-profile car chase in September where an officer fired at least 14 shots into the hood of a stopped car in the Distillery District. We're getting almost as good as Chicago up here. What kind of nut bars we got running around? To serve and protect. What a load of bunk. Serve and protect the corporation which created us because they own us and we do as we're told. 71% of the respondents said they knew the latter two incidents, while a further 16% said they were unaware of at least one of them. It is apparent that the public has taken notice of the mishaps. Look at this, they call it the mishaps. I mean, don't you just love the media? You know, kill a kid on camera, attempted murder. And I'm planting heroin on people. Cop follows a high-speed car and then feels it necessary to shoot 14 shots into the hood of the car when it's already stopped. And then they turn around and say that it is apparent that the public, that's you, which is owned by the corporation, you're the public, and you're owned by, okay? So it is apparent that the corporate slaves, I got to read this right, it is apparent that the corporate slaves has taken notice of the mishaps in the Toronto Police Services recently, and this has had an effect on their trust in the policing of Toronto. Forum Research President Lauren Bosnoff said in a statement. Well, Lauren Bosnoff almost sounds like a KGB name, doesn't it? Who knows? However, while it appears, right? Appears is like kind of like magic. From the poll results that citizens, which are subjects, which are held in servitude, which are corporate slaves. So the results that the citizens / slaves, corporate slaves, I guess would be a better term, trust in officers has been shaken by recent events. Few have changed their opinion of Saunders. Now, he's the black police chief of the city of Toronto. First black police chief we've ever had. And people were pretty happy getting him in here because, I'm not in Toronto, into Toronto, because one, he was black and there was so much, noise about the police carding, colored people in Toronto that, so people were seemingly somewhat happy when the Saunders guy came in, at least the colored community seemed to be, but he didn't change a damn thing. Carding goes ahead, and so on and so forth. So they put themselves, Uncle Tom, into as the head of the Toronto Police Board. His approval ratings have consistently remained around 47% since he was appointed in April of 2015. About a quarter of the respondents, 24%, think there's less wrongdoing in the Toronto Police Service compared with other police forces in Canada. Some 48% believe the alleged planting of heroin in a suspect car and the distillery gunfire were isolated, random incidents. In a news conference announcing the charges of perjury and obstruction of justice were being laid against the four officers Thursday, Saunders said the force will do our best to get the public trust back that we have lost in certain ways. We'll do our best to get back remember, public being anything that is owned by the government, which is the corporations, which is the police force. So we will do our best to get the corporate government trust back, is what they're saying. But what people are reading are saying, oh, they're going to do their best to get our trust back. You ain't got nothing. Okay? To get the corporate government trust back is what they're saying. Because that's who they serve and protect. Anything that questions the integrity of the Toronto Police Service concerns me, he said. The initial poll was conducted on January 20th by Forum Research and surveyed 546 randomly selected voters in Toronto. And you can't vote. Okay? Again, you can't vote. You've never voted. Nobody's ever voted. Okay? You act as a proxy. Okay? You, the man and woman, you don't exist. Okay? You do not exist in the legal system. Simple as that. You do not exist in that system. Because the government didn't create you. Therefore, they don't own you. They did, however, create your legal entity of which they own. Okay? That's the only thing they own. So you can't vote. Your legal entity is registered to vote by you, who is used as the agent of and responsible for that legal entity without you knowing about it. And when you walk into the voting booth and you say, I'm going to vote for so-and-so, and you put your X or your mark there, you didn't vote. You voted as a proxy for the corporate entity. Okay, so the people don't vote. So it's a scam. The people voted for this or that. No, they didn't. No, they didn't, because they cannot. So they took Toronto's Greater Toronto's 5 million, 6 million people now, whatever. So this Forum Research surveyed a total of 546 randomly selected non-voters in Toronto. The second poll was conducted on January 29th and surveyed 586 randomly selected voters in Toronto via an interactive voice response telephone survey. Woo, this got to be accurate. Results based on the total sample are considered accurate plus minus 4% based on what? Who the hell knows? Nobody. It's just data collection and data manipulation and data bull crap. 19 times out of 20. Where appropriate, the data has been statistically weighed by age, region, and other variables to ensure that the sample reflects the actual population according to the latest census data. Have you ever, I love these polls. You read this crap, plus minus 4%, 19 times out of 100, which gives it a very, very real possibility, a high probability that the percentages that they put forward, 64 or 78 and 67, I think were the numbers, are based on nothing, have no tie to any reality whatsoever. Because if you're plus 4 minus percent, plus minus 4%, 19 times out of 20, that just says that you must go buy a lottery ticket. Okay. And where appropriate, the data has been statistically weighed by age, region, and other variables to ensure that the sample reflects the actual population according to the latest census data. Well, you just said up at the top that you have no way of knowing if this is even close to being accurate, and that you somehow. Let's see. Toronto has, I think, 100. I guess I heard it's like 140 different languages or something down there now. Used to be like 2 or 3, but now we're a national, global city. Global trash bin is what it's turned into. But how you would get an accurate estimate of what the population thinks. When we have that many different cultures down there, out of 546 voice responses on a telephone survey is beyond me. You can't do it. It's impossibility. Absolute impossibility. But the people read that and they say, oh, well, it's plus minus 4, 19 times out of 100. Oh, it sounds pretty good, yeah. Yeah, we can run with this. I think what we need to do is start new schools. Is what I think. I think we absolutely need to start some new schools. We most definitely must start some media. We have got to get some media out on the streets. And I'm not talking about freak out New World Order posters and crap. That tells people nothing. No. We need to start writing some legitimate stories to counter the stuff that's being written in the mainstream rags and foisted across the mainstream radio stations and television stations or whatever, just media in general. Because if you just take a story, any story, you can go to any newspaper, pick a story, and reconstruct that story. You don't even have to come up with something. You just take it and reconstruct that story and explain to the reader what they're actually reading. Just to kind of prick their minds a little bit, get them thinking, get them looking at these paragraphs and that in the right sense, so they can understand what it is they're actually reading. And all of this crap is written so that you can't read it. But we have the courts being protected. I mean, it's just a big, stupid corporate club. This is no damn different. I don't know about the ladies that are listening, but I know the little guys, when they were little, most little guys had groups of friends and that, and they would start clubs and whatnot. And we had rules and regulations for the club. And if you joined the club, you follow the rules and regulations of the club. And this is no different. Okay? This is no different at all. Only this time they made you they basically plagiarized your name. Not basically, they did plagiarize your name. And turn that into a public trading thing, which is a corporate trading certificate. That's public, owned by the corporation, and put you in the club without your knowledge, and forcing you to abide by the club's rules and regulations when you're not even aware you're in the club. Okay. Now, when we're kids, you have a club. You don't follow the rules and regulations. You could be kicked out of the club. You could be penalized somehow. You could be thrown out of a tree or off a roof or something, which we used to do as initiations or whatnot. And some of it wasn't that quite that severe, but we did that. And because you had to do an initiation. But if you didn't abide by the rules and regulations, you would be kicked out of the club. And if you no longer wished to be in the club, you were free to leave. The difference here is they didn't tell us we were in the club, and then they're making it very difficult for us to leave the club. And that, I would think, breaks every law in the books. That is kidnapping. Okay? And if you look up the word plagiarize, you will find that it does say the word kidnap. Okay? It says the theft of a child or a slave. Okay? So the name your parents gave to you was plagiarized, turned into a corporate entity as a trading certificate, and of which they entrapped you with, of which they steal from your labor until you die. And people sit there and say, I'm a proud American. I'm a proud Canadian. I'm going to fly that flag. And I'm going to defend that flag. I'm going to defend my government. God, we were stupid, you know. I hope we can turn this around. I know we can turn this around. I want those who come after us, I want them to be able to read about how stupid we were, how dumbed down we were. And I want them to be able to read those stories when they, because of what we do, live in freedom. I don't want them to read that we were partially free or semi-free or thought we were free and didn't stand up anything to guard our freedom, and therefore their futures are pinned into these high density near the rail line crap deals that they've got set up by the globalists and the UN wanting to be a world government garbage. I don't want them to read about that. And them saying, why didn't you do something to stop this? I'm past that now. I used to say that. I'm past that now. I want them the freedom that we never had. And I want them to be able to read how we lived under corporate slavery for so many centuries. And how we, the people, got it. How the men and women finally figured out this nonsense and said enough is enough. And it is over. And so those who come after us will not be pinned in against in these concrete block pieces of 300, 200 square foot units by a rail track, where all of their food and all of their water and everything is completely controlled by this group of psychopaths. I want them to read how we lived under the rule of psychopaths and how that we broke free so that those who come after us have the lands, have control of the water, have control of the food system, have control of the education system, the health systems. And that the government actually is there merely to administrate the resources of the public on behalf of the public, and if they do anything else, they're going to jail instantly. Let me try and get this call in here. Christopher, you got that working? Yo, Christopher. Okay, Chris, you there? You're not there. Okay. I got no Christopher. So I'm going to boot you out of here. And if you get it fixed, then call back in. Or somebody else can call back in. So, you know, all of this nonsense going in the 2016 elections in the United States, there is no election. There never was an election. If you're stupid enough to get tangled up into this political nonsense, you're wasting your time. You're not quite there yet. You still have some thinking to do and some knowledge to gain. But you know, it's going to get interesting. And I keep saying this, that we do not need to use violence to get where we want to get to. We just simply have to stand up and simply say no. Capital letter no, few exclamation marks behind it, and mean it. They have no authority over us except for the authority that we give them. They cannot say, well, that, you know, you're tied to this corporate system because of this legal entity. They can't go there because without our express consent, which nobody gave them. And, you know, the legalese weasels will go, well, you signed this, you know. Well, you satanic agent, you know. You didn't inform us about what we were signing. You didn't disclose it, okay? So you're running around trying to get our souls signed up here. And now that we get it and we see, then we cannot unsee, okay? And we cannot unknow what we know. And now that we know what we know and we see what we see, you're done like a dinner, period. Now they'll rest. But we're more powerful. There's more of us, and it is our lands. Like I see, it's our boots on the land. Possession is 90% of the law, and we have to get into law, and we have to get out of legal. Right? And we have to get our lives back, and we will. I have no doubt about it. I mean, I talked to enough of these people. I mean, I watched when we were at that milk thing at the university yesterday. That was just too friggin' funny, man. I mean, the way the media operated there was just classic. I mean, I've seen it so many times at so many of these meetings, and it's not just those meetings, but all kinds of different meetings. I saw it when I ran in the elections. I mean, I've experienced this firsthand over and over and over again. I remember I was shadowed by Masons everywhere I went when I was in the provincial election. It was ludicrously funny from where I was standing. These known Masons would just pace the back of the hall when I was speaking and just keep staring at me, trying to stare me down. And I must have done something right, because at the end of the election, the Conservative Party thought that that I had a great future in politics. They thought I did a beautiful job in these debates and that, compared to the other candidates who are all party candidates and that. And the whole thing is absolutely ludicrous. So all of these things that I've been up to have been a big help, because every time I get involved in some of this stuff, regardless of what I think about it when I get into it, it always it gives you a new eye line or new eyesight, new thought processes. It gives you a new batch of questions to ask, which leads you to a new batch of answers. And that's how we get where we got to get to. So as financially draining as this has been, and has a lot of court garbage that wasn't necessary, and a lot of intimidation that wasn't necessary, a lot of threats that weren't necessary, all fired my way. It's been an interesting ride, and I'm thankful that it's happened. I'm thankful for everything that's happened, because if it hadn't happened, maybe I would just turn a blind eye to certain things that shouldn't be turned a blind eye to, and then that kills your knowledge base. So it's all for a reason, I believe, and people listen to this show for a reason, I hope. And together we just keep putting it together. And then it's over. I mean, the media's fallen apart, and that's where we have an opportunity to fill a massive gap in there. They're handing us an opportunity now. The media is telling the reader, this media is telling their readers that this media over here is junk. And so, they're chewing on each other now. Trust us, don't trust them kind of crap. So that leaves a great vacancy there, or a vacuum that needs to be filled. And all vacuums do be filled by something. So this is our opportunity to fill it. This is an opportunity for us to get into people's heads and into their homes. And we really do need to work at it and make sure that we fulfill that. And because if we're doing this to win, then we have to use every opportunity and every tool we can get our hands on to win. Because in the end, and I will never stop saying this, in the end, if we lose, then we got nobody, and I mean nobody, to blame but ourselves. Nobody. This idea of blaming politicians or blaming police or this or that or the other thing, that's no good. Okay? We got roped into a massive deception and fraud, and who's going to get us out of it? Us. Okay? What are we going to go to the one that is riding roughshod over us to ask them not to do it anymore? Is that what we're going to do? That ain't gonna cut it. We're going to protest some more? That ain't going to cut it. Never did cut it. You can always look at protests as controlled opposition. I mean, maybe some of these people that start these protests, have have other people's best interests at their heart, but they always don't understand what protests do. They don't accomplish anything. It's always in the public interest, which means it's always in the corporate interest. And you protesting, I mean, Is that in the public interest? Is that in the corporate interest? Of course not. So what are they going to do? They're going to send their corporate bulldogs after you because you're outside the public interest. You're against the public interest. You know, you're protesting on the behalf of the public. That doesn't make any sense because everything public is owned by the government. So now you're protesting on the side of the corporation, which you don't think you're doing, but in fact probably are doing. So we just got to use some real tools. They got us through here. They got us here really through massive propaganda, and we have an opportunity to fight, to push back against that propaganda. We need to take it. Like I said, it's not that expensive to crack out a paper. You can crack out 5,000 copies, right, of a 12-page paper, which you can shove a lot of information into. You can probably get it less. I mean, I went to a local printer, and we're up in the countryside here, so I would think the price might be just a tad higher, but I'm not disappointed in the price. Like, you can get 12 pages, newspaper, 5,000 copies for like $700, right? So you get 10 friends together, you throw in $70 a pop or less, right? Do the paper up and get it out on the street, right? Simple as that. And I'm sure you can pick up a few advertisers along the way as well, okay? And, people go, I don't know if it'll fly. Well, if you don't get it off the ground, it ain't going to fly. It's going to sit on the ground. Now, if you do get it off the ground and it comes down and it kind of bumps along the ground a little bit, well, you can always tinker with it and get it back up in the air. But if you never take it out of the hangar, I guarantee you, you're never going to get it in the air. And you will never have any influence. Just think of the plane coming out of the hangar and flying up, the first planes, everybody's sitting there going, ooh, look at that. I didn't know you could do that. Now just think about taking your newspaper and getting it out there, getting positive feedback from it and going, ooh, I didn't know we could do that. If you do it, you did it. Okay? And when you do something, you learn from what you did. You learn how to improve upon it. These people say, well, I don't know anything about journalism. Learn it. Well, I don't know about setting up a newspaper. Download the software. Learn it. Okay? This idea that you need a certificate in order to be able to do something is the most ludicrous thing I ever heard in my life. If that be the case, we'd still be living in caves. You just make a decision and go get it done. I don't see why we can't put newspapers throughout every province and state and town in North America. Okay? People are not getting the information about, say, I don't know, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. They're not getting that information. They're getting information about it. But it's the corporate information that's going out to benefit the corporation, which is there to hurt the people and pick their pockets a little bit more and enslave them even farther than they are enslaved now. You need to go and you get a paper out there and you do a page or a story on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, if that's what it's called. I think that's what it's called. I don't pay that much attention to it. But you take these issues, okay? If you go and you protest, oh, look, they brought the TV cameras to see our protest. Well, of course they did, to say that you're an idiot. That this small group of protesters is complaining about your future. We're doing this for your benefit, in the public interest, ladies and gentlemen. Don't listen to these small group of a-hole protesters, okay? That's what you got. Go take some relative information and counter their propaganda. I don't think people understand how powerful that is. Okay, we have these countries with no pushback. Okay? And I have no faith in the media on the internet. Okay? I have no faith at all. You know? I had a wonderful call last night from Helen in Calgary. Right? You know, probably pushing 70. Great lady, gets it. Her grandma got it. Okay? Been a whole lot of propaganda under the bridge since then that has, you know, even these people, I mean, these people, her grandparents were around really before the public school system ever kicked in, really. Okay, they understood real and they understood phony. They understood law back then. So a lot of water's gone under the bridge. A lot of propaganda has been stuffed in people's heads since then to get them to submit to absolute deceptions and lies. And if we who know and understand the deceptions and lies sit back and are happy to rattle away on these internet shows, which I don't care what the numbers say, you know, I don't care how big an audience people think they got, you know, and I don't care. I don't run with ego, so I'm not going to sell you products, and I'm not going to tell you that I'm here or there or wherever. I really don't give a damn. Okay, I do these shows because if I can reach somebody, fine. But I cannot reach the people that need to be reached, and those are the people that have no clue as to what's going on unless we get into their homes. The only way you're really truly going to get into their homes and make a change is at the local level. So you got to target the local level. And I have people say, well, everybody's listening to the internet. Well, I hate to break it to you. If you believe that, you go outside this afternoon when this show is over, and you go up and down your street, and you knock on 20 or 40 or 50 doors, and you say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm your neighbor over here. Did you know this? Did you know that? And they will look at you more likely with a blank stare. I have no clue what you're talking about. So this idea that people think that the internet is the answer, I hate to break it to you, you're wrong. Because you will find that most of the people in your local neighborhood don't have a clue about the knowledge that you possess. And if you possess the knowledge and understanding, and you've done your research, and you know how to gut these stories out, and you know how to bring these stories into a proper, truthful light, and you can't bring yourself to do it, then you're not part of the solution. You remain part of the problem. And the biggest part of the problem is people, you know, this internet nonsense is basically anonymous. And people, I don't know, you can sit in your own home like I am right now and yammer away. And you know, we can tell ourselves that, oh boy, we're doing something. Well, we're trying. But there's a lot more effective ways to do it. We can bring more people to these stations if we explain why they should be listening to them. But you can't explain it if you can't get to it, and you can't get to them. They didn't come here. They're not here. They're sitting in their home watching CNN or picking their nose or eating a pizza or some other stupid thing. You know, you go out and deliver these papers to the homes personally. They say, hi, I'm so-and-so. You know, we felt the need for a new publication. Take it. You got any questions about what you're reading, pick up a telephone, call us. We put up a website for you, yada, 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 yada. And you've done all that for like $700. And you've reached 5,000 people in a block who are all reading the same thing in a block, neighbors. Now, when those people read that stuff and they go to the coffee shop or they walk in, they meet each other when they're at the shopping center or at the grocery store, I will guarantee you that they will discuss, did you get that new newspaper? What did you think about it? Well, there's some interesting things because I didn't realize that's why our hydro bills were going up so much. I thought it had something to do with this. And you've started them talking, which gets them thinking. Okay? And this is a psychological war, and it's a spiritual war. And we use psychology, which is really just propaganda. And we use, you know, a moral value, which is a spirit. People are ready now. They are truly getting ready. And, you know, we're kind of like the, I don't want to call them frontline troops or something. Maybe we're the bird dogs or whatever, right? The scout, I guess, who goes out ahead and sees what's out there and comes back and reports. So the people are waiting back to see what's going on. Maybe that's our role. Maybe we're the scouts, not the Boy Scouts, because that's a pretty trippy place, that one is. But just the scouts. And we bring back what we know, and we alert those people what we know. You know, you could call it, I forgot his name now, the guy that rode his horse, Paul Revere, right? The British are coming, okay? And that's basically, he was a scout, you know? And he was to alert people, and we're to alert people. And I don't have a horse. So I can't ride through the streets saying that the globalists are coming or that they're already here, right? But we can do it very, very inexpensively. 10 friends, 10 people. You don't need 10. Go sell 5 ads, you know? Go find the guy at the local garage who's having his business tore to pieces or thumbed under so bad he can't breathe anymore. He'll buy an ad from you. He'll buy an ad from you. You know, if the newspaper that you see on your stands can be produced, then that means you have the capacity to produce a newspaper. Simple as that. You know? When I first started building houses, people say, oh, you're building houses. Yeah, where'd you learn how to do that? I don't know. If you can build a house, why can't I build a house? It's that simple. So if there are newspapers there, then there's really no reason you can't produce a newspaper. None. Anyways, I was really looking forward to Enos today. I don't know what happened there. Something happened on the farm or family or what is going on. Or I do know he went to the other police and told them that he expected protection through this because they're in an ugly mood about what he's up to. He's really put him on the hot seat, and hats off to him for that. But we're going to be back here on Tuesday night, 7 to 8, and then again Thursday. And I'm going to try very hard to get Enos on either Tuesday or Thursday, and we didn't have a lot of time with Michael yesterday, Michael Schmidt down at the Raw Milk Symposium in Guelph, but I hopefully can hook up with him today. And we found out some really interesting things last night looking at the dictionaries and about what they did with him. And it looks like they may have moved him into a very positive position unknowingly, the court. So I'm gonna try and get a hold of him this afternoon later, and maybe I can get him on the show Tuesday or Thursday as well. So till then, keep doing what you're doing. Oh yeah. Hal's on a tree. Don't miss that. You know, I can't chirp like that, but there's crickets over there or something. So you know, I don't know if you want them stir-fried crickets or deep-fried crickets, but at 3:00. There will be some crickets. So slide by Hal's show and tune into that thing. So, okay, everybody, it's 1:58. I should hear music pretty quick. And when I do, I'm bidding you adieu. And I'm going to try and get a hold of Michael and Enos and get some topics going here. And please consider talking to your friends wherever you live. And, you know, can't afford to put up 5,000 papers, put out 2,000 papers, but we got to get some news out on the stand. Everybody take care and enjoy the day. And remember, Hal's on the street. We will be back here Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill.